Hi, and welcome back to the ghbond channel. Time for another RMSL update as things are getting exciting as we're approaching the RMSL rally season. But before that, we want to do the usual disclaimer that these are just my ideas. This is not financial advice. And of course, RMSL is a very risky stock. You could lose every dollar that you put into it. Maybe not quite as risky as a regional bank, seeing as Silicon Valley just failed, but definitely still a risky stock. So if you're willing to accept the risk and keep that in mind and only invest a commensurate amount of capital based on the risk, then continue on with this video and let's get into the rally season discussion. Recently I noticed a post on StockTwits about the potential of RMSL not receiving FDA approval just simply because FDA was corrupt and somebody with a little bit more money was holding them down. Now, I may have been the person who started this whole concept, and I don't have any inside information, but I did present some evidence that it could be potentially FDA corruption, and that evidence is chronicled in my video of June 19th of last year, and you might want to go look at that for an in-depth discussion and what it was that made me think that perhaps the FDA was corrupt and that was what's holding up RMSL. So how can we deal with this situation? How do we decide whether to hold or whether to sell? Well, one of the things I did when I was learning to be a good trader was I picked up No Limit Hold'em. And No Limit Hold'em has a lot of correlation to trading in the market. Most importantly, being able to fold, which translates to being able to take a loss. But the other thing is you learn to be a good poker player, you have to evaluate a lot of things where you don't know the outcome. You have odds of possibilities. Like we know the odds whether you'll complete a straight or whether you'll complete a flush with X number of cards remaining. Those are mathematical. However, we have to assign some random odds to the odds that our opponent is bluffing, the odds our opponent holds certain cards, things of that nature. So in that, we end up working with a lot of imperfect data to come up with one perfect answer as what our next play is. So this is a little bit simpler. We don't have a lot of hard data to go on. So we can use the analog of poker by looking at expected value, meaning what is the expected value if we hold versus what is the expected value if we sell. And I've come up with a simple spreadsheet that we can evaluate that and maybe give ourselves some idea about what the right move to make for us is. Okay, so we've got several input values to this simple spreadsheet that we have to put in. The first one is called terminal value FDA approval. That means how high do you think the stock is going to settle, say a month after the FDA approval. And I put in for this example 10 cents. I think that's reasonable. What the terminal value is on FDA failure, in other words, if FDA sends them back to the drawing board again, where do you think the stock will settle? I think in this case, my personal opinion, it's going to be punitive. It's going to be struggling to hold 1 penny at that point. So that's what I put for this one. The odds of FDA approval. If you think that this new girl that they hired is going to help out a lot and she knows the FDA and she knows what she's doing, hopefully better than the company with a 100% perfect track record, well, maybe we give her a 75% odds of getting FDA approval. And then the max value pre-FDA. That means before FDA approval, we usually rally up. And we might rally based on past performance as far as 4.3 cents. So that is a value we have to assign to how high do you think it'll get before we actually get a yes or a no. After that, the math is simple. Our sell gives us, of course, the 4.3 cents. In that case, it'd be a 253% gain. But holding give us a much higher value. So let's look at how we calculate that. The formula is we take D1, which is the value at approval, times the odds of approval, 75% in this case, plus D2, which is the failure value, times the odds of failure, which is going to be 1 minus the odds of approval. So those two fractions together give us an expected value. We could get the 10 cents, we could get the 1 cent, but based on the probability and mathematics, which is the best we can do in this imperfect situation, we get a gain of 450 cents and an expected value of 7.8 cents, which is pretty decent. So in this case, looking at this, obviously our poker decision would be we're going to hold, and expected value there is almost twice what expected value is if we sell. Now, I did see somebody in the stock twit say, okay, I think about a 20% chance of approval, so let's put in 20% chance. Now, 20% chance, leaving everything else the same, now our sell value is much better, and our expected value for holding is only 2.8 cents. So if you truly believe it's 20%, and given these other parameters I've put in, if they're reasonable, then I would expect that, you know, there's a very good opportunity for you to go ahead and grab the 4.3 cents or whatever the high is that you can grab and run with the money. Because odds are, based on your expectation of FDA approval, that it's going to be better for you to actually sell than to hold. So that simple spreadsheet gives you a way of getting in there and, you know, assigning some value to your own thoughts so you can look at what is my value if I hold or if I sell, and does it make sense? Of course, you can always divide it up into partial holds, partial sells. That way, you know, even if you decide sell is the way to go, you can hold a little just for fun in case you get FDA approval, so you totally didn't miss out. So that's my take on it. I hope this little spreadsheet exercise helped you think a little bit more clearly, other than just fretting about it, because it is a tough decision to make in this particular case. So looking forward to the rally season, rallying on up through the 2, 3, and 4 cent areas again. And I think that'll probably stretch into June at least. Those of us who've been around a while, when we heard mid-February to mid-March for the new information, we all heard late April. We never expect them to be on time. So yeah, this will probably drag on through at least June and maybe July. And but it'll be fun watching the stock price rise. And just going back to my original disclaimer at the beginning, looking at these gains, you know, even 169% gain is awesome. 253, we had a 400% gain. Why wouldn't I YOLO into RMSL? Just a reminder, yeah, they sound like great gains, but overnight, just like with Silicon Valley Bank, RMSL could suddenly just dry up and blow away. You wouldn't think so, but that's why it's selling for a penny, not for $5, $10. Okay, it's a basically very small company. It basically consists of a few guys, and that's it. There's nothing else there. So it could definitely disappear in a heartbeat. And let's hope for its continued success or its future success. But be careful with how much you invest, because it is that risky stock. So until next time, here's hoping that RMSL runs away with it this year.